transparent way. So we've already heard that discussions are ongoing with the Tittle Centre, which is good news. But what I want to try and avoid, and what we should all try and avoid, is a situation whereby in December we are given a rationalisation on why things are not, instead of the ability to influence that process throughout and understand exactly how the decision process is being made around our targets. Because, again, to talk about the way that we make our decisions, we need to be able to openly scrutinise this. And if we are talking about possibly looking at reducing the target to 2030, 2038, we need to not just align ourselves with the Greater Manchester local authorities that are also doing work that seem to be at different dates and different processes, at different stages in the process. We also need to bring it a little bit back, scrutinise those decisions before they're made, and understand exactly the impact on the carbon budget as well. So I am sure Emma wants to add on to what she did on the motion, but I'm just very mindful that particularly the original amendment that was accepted around the 2030 target, exactly what work has been done today to ensure the viability of that target. Because judging on this report and the next report, it doesn't seem like that much has actually been done. And I'm very mindful that we'll be given an excuse at the end of this year in a report to the executive that won't go to scrutiny. And I think that would be a poor decision, not just for this council, but also for the scrutiny process.
So someone should be able to answer that.
Yeah, just to reflect on what you said, Richard. When we brought the 2038 target to the council, we didn't take it direct to executive and to council, we brought it to neighbourhood scrutiny, and every member had the opportunity to have their say in terms of, do you like it, do you not like it, pick it to bits, ask us questions, and of course we will bring it any suggestion back. And this group provides another opportunity for further scrutiny of how we're moving forward, and also for us to share what is of interest to you in terms of how we are making progress in sort of different areas. Now, this sheet that we have been going through is something that we were reporting against from 2009 to 19, and now we've done this, or we are working on this. We are very, very conscious about what is it that we're doing in the next 5 years, how do we build on this, and how actually do we accelerate and we put it on acid and on speed, because that's what we really have got to do. Reducing our emissions by 50% in the next 5 years is very, very significant, and there's lots of political decisions that need to be made. So, you know, if you look at a building and we want to put lots of money in, let's say, a leisure centre, that is a very, very hard decision when, you know, people are also worried about homelessness, people are also worried about adult health and social care. So I just want to put it on perspective, Chair, in terms of how decisions are sort of taken. I can see that you're trying to...
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but what we're here to do is look at the climate emergency motion and look at the issue of reducing our carbon emissions. That's what this subcommittee is for. So I'm not suggesting the council doesn't have to make these decisions, but that what we're looking at here is a reduction in carbon emissions and how we're going to measure that and how we're going to involve people in that process. So the question that was asked is what's happening with the Tyndall Centre and the review of the date, and we know the 2038 date went through the Neighbourhood Scrutiny Committee, but since then we've had a motion to the full council which was carried unanimously, saying firstly in the original motion that we should have an open and transparent review to identify the earliest possible date, and then subsequently amended to say that we should look at bringing that date forward specifically to 2030 and that we should have a report on that by the end of the year. So can anyone tell us what is going on with the Tyndall Centre? What review is being done? Why is it not open and transparent? Can we get a report by the end of the year? you know, this is what we need to know in respect of the motion that we all carried.
So, in terms of that, the discussions are ongoing between the Manchester Climate Change Agency and the Tyndall Foundation, and the reports will come to scrutiny, as you have suggested, for you to have a look at and ask questions and scrutinise. And we can bring the Tyndall Foundation as well, so that they can tell you what is the rationale behind the suggestion that they're making. I don't know currently what suggestion they're making because I've asked them to look at it, so I can't give you any further sort of information on that. In terms of what we have been doing since the motion, I think these papers state clearly what we have been doing in terms of...
Can we just stick to one point at a time? We're just talking about the review of the date at the moment. Okay, so we can invite the Tyndall Centre here. We have to discuss when we're next meeting. This has to be looked at by the end of the year, so I think we will have to pass this back to the Neighbourhood and Environment Scrutiny Committee and ask that they're invited to its next meeting, because we might not have another meeting of this committee before the end of the year. So we at least need to look at this end of the year question, and we then also need to look at the open and transparent question. Yeah, Richard.
It's probably a question for Lee, actually, to be honest. Would something that has to go to Neighbourhood and Environment have to be taken as urgent business at this stage, or are we still able to get something like this back before the end of the year, with enough time for the Tyndall Centre to actually report back?
Prior to a formal agenda being published, that can be included with permission through the chair. Urgent business is any item of business which wasn't included on the original agenda. So the November meeting with the agenda has to be published next Tuesday.
Okay, so just what we do is I'll raise it with the chair of the Neighbourhood and Environment Scrutiny Committee to try and get the report about the end of the year 2030 date discussed there, and then also I think we need to invite them to this subcommittee to look at the open and transparent review aspect of it. Is that okay then?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That's a thing.
I'm aware we've taken nearly an hour already. We said we're going to go for 2 hours. We had lots of questions about various acronyms that we did or didn't understand depending on how long we've been around. Could we just have, what's the term for it? Glossary of all these abbreviations in this document and what they all mean? I think that's, rather than going into them all now, could we get that for us? Is that all right?
Yes, and apologies for that.
Yeah.
It's probably around kind of brevity around the table's quite big as it is, so apologies for that.
Okay, so I'm going to continue to the end of this document and then we'll see where we're up to. So point 10 is reduce... Sorry, on 9.
Sorry, just briefly on 9 in the detail. It says Manchester was successful in submitting a stage 1 bid to Urbat for the city to be a transfer network for the monthly good practice. It's the second to last paragraph in the column. Great. What is it though, and what's the anticipated outcome from this?
I'll take that away. I'm pretty sure that relates to a project called Sea Change, which we've been successful with, which is the cultural sector working with other European partners in their cultural sectors to share learning on how they can reduce their carbon emissions. But I'll check that out.
Yeah, go on.
And can that include the anticipated outcome from it? Thanks.
Okay, point 10 is reduce citywide carbon emissions by 41% by 2020. So this is working to the earlier, the 2038 date, is that right?
So this is working on the target that was agreed in 2009-10, which is a 41% reduction by 2020. So this is what this action plan is based on, hence why it's out of date.
Well, I think it's just that it's probably a really good example of actually how difficult it is to get your head around here, because obviously if you start to do the sums around what the emissions reductions there are, I think they probably relate to something like the last year or last quarter or something, but what you can't see here is what the base date was, what the base what the base total was, what the target total is, and it's that people being able to really understand that I think is needed. Thanks.
I think the text in the update box sort of refers to the science-based target. Obviously, trying to summarise that in a couple of sentences is quite difficult because there's some quite complex graphs and charts, but the actual science-based target that was adopted by executive was around a carbon budget to 2,100 to stay in, obviously, in line with the COP21 agreement. So that talks about the negatives in terms of the citywide emissions. So there are graphs and things to back that up. But I think you're dead right. We need to. I think we're working with colleagues internally as well about how do we present some of this, because even this is the qualitative update on the actions, but there's, you've seen before, the quantitative update where we've got charts and pie charts, and so I think how we have to present this information, which is something that's quite complex in a simple way, is one of our challenges going forward.
So this is the information I think that we need at every meeting of this subcommittee. So I guess regardless of how we report on some of these other issues, this is what we need to be looking at every time we meet. So is that going to be possible for us to do?
What might be helpful is if we came back with a better explanation of the data, how often it's collected, how often it's available, because that will help inform what gets reported back.
Yeah, are we alright with that? But can we have the next time we meet an update on this, what is presently point 10? Is that going to be possible to do?
So the citywide data is annual data that we use. So we have more data for our own operations, direct emissions wise. So we started doing that on an annual basis now, because the quarterly data, you get quite a lot of seasonal spikes, and there's quite a long delay in terms of getting all the energy bills in and things like that. So we have to, and things like staff mileage claims are lagged because you've got a period of time to claim things. So actually the quarterly data was very difficult to make decisions from and interpret. So we took a view in the past to do that annually in July, and July's Neighbourhood Environment Scrutiny Committee, which gave us the full year picture from the previous financial year. So that's how we've done the kind of the really detailed update in the past.
Okay, are we happy if we're given this explanation of when some of this information is available? Because I think that what you're saying does make some sense, but I think we just, again, don't have the level of detail to understand whether we think that's the right thing to do or not. So if we could get some information about where these figures come from, when that information is available, and then we can understand what we're looking at on an ongoing basis.
I think we're starting to get a much better feel for the sorts of things you're looking at, which will help us for next time.
Right, point 11 is reduce citywide emissions from domestic buildings. Now, we have got lots on this, Mandy.
Thank you. I think we're kind of getting, when we start to talk about this, I mean, the councillors, sorry, we're going on to first names, aren't we? Angeliki was saying that what the city council is doing is only 2% of emissions in the city. So obviously there's an awful lot that we can do there, and it is really important, but actually what we're doing externally, I know that domestic buildings are something like, is it about 27-30% of emissions in the city? This is the really important stuff. But it's also, I'm very aware it's incredibly difficult. And because I sit on the Housing Planning and Environment Committee of the GMCA, we had a presentation at our last meeting there, which talked about some of the GMCA's work on it. And the thing that just struck me the most forcefully from there is that although there's an awful lot of small-scale good work, it's the sheer scale of the work that needs to be done that is extraordinarily difficult and that we're not getting to. And you know, this is somewhere where I think we really do need to look at a massive kind of a source of investing, because we need to invest in order to enable not just those people with fuel poverty, but all people to make those kind of changes in their own homes, but also, and particularly an area of real difficulty, I think, is the private rented sector, where one group of people are the people who are going to be expected to put in the capital input for this, but another group of people who are going to reap the benefit the reduced costs, and so that makes that technically very difficult. And I know it's probably a central government issue, but that's something we really need to be loading under pressure to help us to get this done. Because with our ageing housing stock, I can't stress enough how important it is.
Is anyone else from Richard?
Mine was a bit of a wider point on not necessarily the former local authority social housing associations, but some of the others. There is still, I don't know to what extent there's been an audit of the properties in Manchester that isn't held by North Wales or South Wales, etc. But there are still large blocks of flats and housing stock that are in desperate need of retrofit. And at the same time, these associations are being given money from Homes England to continue to build across Greater Manchester, whereas actual fact, it shouldn't meet standards. Their current housing stock doesn't really meet the standards that we'd expect from an agenda like this. And I understand it's a national issue, and I understand it probably requires national legislation and probably a change in the housing standards within the Housing Act 2004. But it would be interesting to know if the council are doing anything, particularly with the LGA, to try and come up with some sort of cross-working with all the local authorities, particularly some of the core cities, on issues like this, to ensure that, as Andy said, the private sector and some of the housing association stock is retrofitted to the quality we would expect before they receive any further national money to build housing in the area.
Does anyone else know anything on this? Concerned at the time. I think with this we have to see this issue moving on. Each time we meet, we need to know what has happened on this issue. So, I think there are things that I know about that aren't on this table here. So, we've got our 4 major social housing providers. I think we need to know what all of them are doing. Plus, we've got lots of other social housing providers. And I think, are we anywhere near knowing the number of properties we've got and which of them are privately rented and which of them are owner-occupied and which of them need retrofitting? Do we have that sort of information?
I'm not sure we do have this information. My bit of a plan on this, I've got a discussion with Councillor Richards to discuss this issue with her, both in terms of new homes as well as our existing stock, and take a view on how we are moving forward in Manchester City Council, also together with the Zero Carbon Coordination Group. At the same time, there's a lot of work which is being done by our housing association providers. All of our housing association providers are represented in the Manchester Climate Change Partnership, and as everybody else, they have signed up to 2038. So they're currently busy working with the Climate Change Agency in order to put forward their plan in terms of what they are going to do to retrofit their homes. Apart from what is their plan, we have also asked them what are the barriers in terms of supporting people or retrofitting your properties. So we are expecting them to come with a list of asks of Manchester City Council. This is going to be fed to the group of officers so that we can change the things that we can do to support them and help them. This is also might have an ask to the combined authority in terms of what are the barriers, in terms of what are the projects where they want to collaborate and what is the ask for funding. And of course there will be an ask to the government as well, which we'll also take to the core cities and we will take to the government. So lots of work are going there, but also lots of challenges. The scale of work is very, very big. However, another challenge is, we've got projects that are working at small scale, so the challenge then is how do we bring these projects to scale? If we have got business plans that are there and they're working for a housing association, can we transfer them to another association? And can they share information between them? And how can we support and enable them to do that? How can we also bring funders in, either private sector or public sector funders, in order to build something sort of very, very big and what is the role of the local council and the local and the combined authority on that space.
So what does the committee want to do with this section? Do we want to just have it on our agenda every time we meet and see how things are moving along? And we can get different reports from different aspects of this. And I think what you said about the social housing, they're working to 2038, but if they're all committed to doing that and they've all got a plan, then that's good to know, because a lot of these documents refer to northwards, I find that's one Manchester's our one. But as long as they're all doing that, then that's that sector taken care of, isn't it? So it's what we're doing about everybody else that we need to focus on. Is there any other suggestions or recommendations we want to make on this section? No, so if we can just keep having, yeah, sorry.
Well, it's really about the skilling up of the workforce that we need to have. And this is actually a massive opportunity for Manchester residents to get interesting new jobs in what will be at least partially really quite a highly technical industry. So, and I'm sure that is somewhere where we can use our influence to get together our training providers, our fantastic colleges. We've got some really good work going on in the universities as well in terms of keeping that work at cutting edge. But we need to make sure that those are linked up with people who actually train people to do these jobs. And although we might not be able to do this work directly, I'm sure that there must be something that we can do to try to help to catalyse it.
I think we need to see the increase in the work being done, isn't it? From all sectors of housing. So I don't know if you can just update us next time with what's happened, and I think we can take it from there. But we need to be seeing that there is more and more of this work being done, and again we need to know that we need to know the impact that that's having on our carbon emissions. Yeah, Angelique.
Thank you, Chair. Same as the buildings estates person who is coming to the next cruise, we can ask someone from the Master Climate Change Agency if that works, or we can ask our representative from the housing associations to come here and tell us more if you would like that. Just to take the opportunity to say also that retrofitting homes is not just impacting on fuel poverty, it is something that will impact on people's health. It is also something that has implications in terms of skills, in terms of job creation. There is a report, or the next economy scrutiny meeting will be focused on green skills. So hopefully you will see some of the thinking there around how do we build up the skills for retrofitting homes and sort of all that. However, more than happy to ask someone if you would like to come to a future meeting, or else there will definitely be a report together on 2038 by the Master Climate Change Agency.
Yeah, I think we need to look at our own work plan at the end of this meeting, don't we? But I'm thinking if we could get someone from Manchester Climate Change Agency to cover that whole subject at a future meeting, that would be useful. What was I going to say? I mean, I think also, again, this is the first people in fuel poverty, and again,